Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ochuko. Today I'm going to be talking about camera buying guide. I'll be using cnets.com. They have a buying guide on there, and I think it's pretty comprehensive. Kind of goes over the different classes of cameras and how you can go about purchasing them, and also gives examples of those cameras in those different classes. All right, so kind of what spurred this on was my friend. He was looking to buy a new camera, and he was asking me for some advice. So I was just going over some of the details and how to go about with this and how to choose your right camera. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. I know I had a hard time when I was finding my camera. So hopefully this is beneficial. So CNET has a nice guide, like I mentioned. They have the different camera levels. The first one they go over here, and they kind of tell you if it's best for you and all of that. But the first one they go over is the point and shoot. So very simple. This is the most basic model. This is the next step up from your camera phone. A camera phone is kind of like a point and shoot camera these days because they have improved so much in their quality. But you can get some pretty good quality point and shoots these days. And the thing with these point and shoots, you get a little bit more of a control with your images and how they look. But that's not really a selling point anymore because, like I said, smartphone cameras have improved and a lot of them do have manual controls on there. But you can see this is the price point that you're going to see kind of in this with these different cameras. And the benefit with this that smartphone cameras do not have, even though some smartphones are trying to implement this with the iPhone 7 Plus, optical zoom. So this is 18 times optical zoom, and with this, that means that your image you can zoom in closer without losing image quality. What a lot of smartphone cameras do is what it's called digital zoom, and that's more of just cropping the image. So you lose a lot of detail with that when you zoom in, and your image do look blurry. But with the optical zoom, you can get a pretty nice increase in the magnitude of your or the size of your subject while maintaining detail. And then you move on to the next step, which is a compact mega zoom. And this is 20 times optical zoom. It can range, it varies. I never really had an interest for these, so I'm not too versed on these, on this camera class. But pretty much, this is what you will be looking for when you're purchasing that. The 20 times optical zoom. It might give you a zoom range. Here's the zoom range. There's some conversion with that I'm not too familiar with, but do be rest assured that 20 times is plenty. You might not even need that much, depending on what you're using it for. And then you step up to a full size mega zoom. With a full size mega zoom, what's nice about this is that you get an extended range, and you can see the range on here, which is 25 to 600 millimeters, I think, or six, so yeah, 600. And the nice things with this about these cameras, like I said, you get the increased range. The image quality is not going to be too different from your point and shoot versus the full size, the full size mega zoom. The image quality is going to be roughly about the same. Maybe you might get if you get a really expensive mega zoom, you might be able to get maybe slightly better image. Also, you can have more of a manual control. Some of these might have a manual option, um, so you can manually control the image. Um, but you can also see that with some of the compact zooms as well. Not as common though. And then you start moving up and you see the price starts getting a little bit more higher. You have your enthusiast compact, and a lot of these, that price range up there is probably a Leica or something like that. But you can see Canon makes some of these. My first camera was kind of an enthusiast compact, if you will. With these, you have more of a manual control to this. On here, you can see the manual dial. So this allows you to control kind of like a DSLR. And mine was the Canon S100. So it had this, and if you flip it on the back, it also has another dial. So you have two dials where you can control your settings and, well, not settings, your different image components without going into the menu. And you see you have your articulating flash right here, so that's nice. You can direct where your flash goes. So with these, you have more of a control and flexibility with how your image comes out. Whereas with some of the point and shoots and with your cameras, smartphone cameras, you're at kind of at the mercy of what that phone determines as being the most optimal image, whereas it might not be what you really want. I know some of the older point and shoots, you barely even had the option of controlling the flash. Um, but yeah, so that's just a minor detail. But anyways, now you start moving more into the big boys. So your images are going to start being differentiated here. Another thing with your enthusiast cameras, you will see larger. The images are better than the other different classes, even with the mega zooms, because you typically will see a larger um, sensor size with this, and I'll explain more on the sensor size and some of the different components specifically on another video. But now we're moving into the big boys, if you will. So these cameras are going to give you a significantly better image quality than some of your other ones, I think personally. With these, you can change the lens. So with the previous camera levels, as I mentioned, you're kind of at the mercy of a lot of things, that including the lens that is provided. Now it might not be that great of a lens, so you're kind of stuck with that. So some of your more expensive point and shoots take into account the lens that they have. So with this, if the your stock or whatever lens comes with that camera body, you don't like it, you can always just go out and buy another lens to improve your image quality. And that flexibility is what makes some of these cameras nice. Um, that in addition to the increase in the image quality. Also, next we move into the entry level DSLRs. So with a DSLR, there's a mirror in the camera body over here, and even though this is a small DSLR compared to your the other DSLRs I'm going to be talking about, it's still a lot bigger than your entry level and some of your other interchangeable your mirrorless cameras. So with this, you have the interchangeable lens as well. It's pretty much the same thing as your interchangeable lens cameras, but just with the, like I said, the mirror on there. The sensor size should be roughly about the same. If you get a pretty good interchangeable lens camera, you should get comparable image quality between these, so you're not missing out much on that. And then you move into the enthusiast mirrorless cameras. So these offer more control with your images, if you will. So these are more of a micro four thirds. Um, I'll explain more on that. But the sensor size will most likely be smaller than the sensor size on this. So this will compare more with your bigger DSLRs that aren't pro level. Um, and moving on to the pro level DSLRs. So these are more professional grade. This is what you'll see your professional people working with. A lot more buttons on here and dials and knobs. It's pretty intimidating if you don't know what you're doing, but once you get a hang of things, it kind of disappears. You know what you're doing. It's not as intimidating, if you will. But with these, you have an dramatic increase in the image quality. And I'll kind of explain, like I've been saying, why that change in the image quality is, what exactly is making that image better. You have your mirror on there, and these cameras are significantly bigger than your other cameras. As you can see, just for the body only this part, you can't take an image without the lens. Just paying for the body, it's $800, and then you're buying your lens on top of that, which will start around 200 and up to 10,000, tens of thousands. And then you have your pro cameras. This is probably one of my favorite cameras right here. Super expensive, but the pro camera doesn't necessarily have to be this one. Right here, you can have pro level DSLRs, but with the pro levels, you have the full frame and a lot more controls. Some of them don't even have an automatic setting. So if you don't know what you're doing with the camera, you're wasting your money if you're buying a camera in this level. You need to know how to work a camera when you're stepping up to this camera level over here. And as you can see, significantly higher just for the body. $1,200. I would love to get my hand on this camera. I'm eyeing this. This would probably be my next camera I purchase just because of the body size and the image quality that comes with it. So this is a really great website, cnet.com, with their camera buying guide, and they have a lot of information on here. Like I said, you just click on one of these buttons on the different one that you're interested in, and it'll go into more details, and not necessarily detail, but it'll give you a list of different cameras in this class. So as you can see, this is the expensive one over here, and they rate it best photo quality and best advanced. So they have different explanations for why you would purchase them. Um, so yeah. Also, another benefit. Oh, another benefit when you're looking at these, looking to purchase a camera. Like I said, I had a Canon when I first started with. I learned how to shoot on that, but then I moved on to a Nikon. And the reason I moved on to a Nikon was because my brother's father-in-law, he's the one who actually helped me out with purchasing my camera. I had my eyes set on a Canon T4i, I believe, and I was going to purchase that just because I had a Canon. I was familiar with that ecosystem, and I was just going to continue with that. But he offered, and he was like, "Yeah, if you ever need to, because he shoots with a Nikon. If you ever need to, you purchase a Nikon. You can always use my lens." And I was like, "Yo, that is dope," because lenses are expensive. Now I'll just be borrowing it from him, but the idea of having his lens available to me in the instance that I was going on a road trip or something where I would need a different type of camera, I thought that was pretty nice. So that's actually one of the main reasons I went ahead and bought a Nikon. So if you're familiar with someone who has either a Canon, Nikon, Fujifilm, whatever it is that they have, Sony, that's one of the benefits buying that camera. I would say they have the different nuances, but if you're just new into the game, if you will, you're not tied into anything. Right now, I can't see myself going to a Canon because I'm just so used to my Nikon and the settings on there. I'm just so used to it now. But if you're just new to the game, I say pick whichever one of those. I'm not one of those territory maniacs or whatever who's Team Nikon or Team Canon. So if you know someone who has that system, it'll be nice to purchase that one so you can borrow a lens from them if they will allow you. But overall, it's more of just kind of browsing, knowing what you're going to be shooting, your different subjects. Are you going to be shooting people going out into the streets and doing landscape or cityscapes, if you will? Whatever it is, you will need to tailor your camera choice to that. And I'll explain more of those later on. And when you go about purchasing this, my three favorite websites that I like to suggest: Amazon.com, of course, Adorama.com, and B&H Photos and Video. I will link those. Go check those out and see what they have in store. I purchased mine a while ago from Adorama.com, and it was pretty quick shipping. It was free shipping, so check Walmart as well and Best Buy because they might be able to price match. But I bought mine refurbished. Oh, that's another point. Don't be afraid to buy refurbished. All right, refurbished they're coming from a certified dealer. Which for this I would go with Adorama or B&H Photo. If you're buying refurbished, that's a great way to get your camera for much cheaper. And also buying a previous generation. When I bought mine, I got the Nikon D7100, and the Nikon D7200 was actually just came out maybe a few months ago. So this was discounted on top of being refurbished. So I got mine for a pretty good price, as you can see, and I went ahead with this lens. But yeah, I'll let you guys know more on different aspects of a camera and talk more about lenses and how to go about purchasing those as well. But essentially, this is just the basics to get you started. All right, looking forward to hearing more and speaking to you guys. Leave a comment if you have any questions about anything that I went over. This is very basic. Use this guide on here. It really goes over a lot of good information. Very useful. All right, guys. Talk to you later.